Good afternoon and welcome to this second NMOP meeting. I'm Benoit and we have Rashad here. So let's go for the first, the slides from the chairs. This is the second session. The first one was 2 hours. This one is 1 hour. Typically, the second session is about the result of the hackathon. So note well, you've seen this. It means that by participating to the IETF, you agree to follow the IETF process and the policies, that anything that you say will be recorded as a session, in the meeting minutes. Feel free to read the references there. If there is an IPR statement, if you know about a patent about your stuff or someone else, you have to mention it. Note very well that this meeting, and based on its history, has been treating people in a professional way, and we're going to continue with this professional way of treating each other. And if there are any issues, there are like anti-harassment policies that we could, an escalation we could be following. Now, that's a second meeting, but anyway, let me repeat a couple of things. If you want to go to the microphone, you need to log it into the DAT tracker and you need to raise your hand. We're going to see that you want to speak and then you will go to the mic. If you're using the video there, not the lights application, if you're not using the Meeteco Live, make sure, sorry, it's a long week already. If you're not using the Meeteco Lite client, make sure that you don't have your mic open and your video, you do what you want. For the remote participant, same thing, audio and video off. And we don't have any remote presenters this time. So this agenda is about, first, we'll speak about validating configure subscription Yang push publish implementation by Thomas, followed by Vincenzo about the open source project Anomaly, Lifecycle and Semantics. Then Vivek will speak about the CMAP hackathon results, and we will have an update from the design team on knowledge graph, and we'll have about 5 minutes for open topics, open mic. Any agenda bashing? Hearing none. Then we're good, and we will continue with Thomas, please.
Hello, everybody. So last weekend, Saturday, Sunday, we had the hackathon. There were a couple of activities in regards to validate configured subscription Yang publisher implementations. You see on the right, basically the end-to-end Yang data processing pipeline we are proposing in the message broker draft document here in NMOP. And yes. So the test plan this time, it's not only about the subscription automation, so basically discovering the Yang push capabilities, configuring Yang push, and then looking at the notifications on the subscription state change notifications. Now this time we were extending it also towards the validation, so validating the notifications against the Yang schema tree with Yang lint. There are also activities on the Yang lint on the libyang side to extend libyang to do the any data validation. And then, as you're aware of, NMOP just recently adopted the message broker telemetry message schema. So that's the schema between the message broker or the Apache Kafka publisher and consumer. So this we were validating as well at the hackathon, and then the overall end-to-end message broker integration. Yang push is structured into MVP 1, 2, and 3. So MVP 1, we are now here. So if you go on that website, you will see the release dates of 4 different Yang push implementations, which are now between June and October. And then probably after, we are already moving on towards MVP 2 and 3. The implementations I listed at the bottom, not only the Yang publisher, but also the Yang push receiver side, the data collection side. Now we have three repositories. The first one is the test results, means basically all the notification messages, the Yang modules, and so on. We captured them in those directories, and we used a so-called test automation tool, which is the second repository, which is producing those outputs, which then can be also used for the validation part. And last but not least is the repository where we have for the message broker integration, the Yang serializers and the Yang schema registry plugin. This is the architecture. These are all the documents applying to this architecture. Now you see that basically the list of checkboxes is steadily getting more complete. You see on the green ticks that basically we closed some items. So we are now close to shipping the software to make it publicly available. So this is the MVP 1. The vendors already started to implement MVP 2. We have in the last hackathon on IETF 122 already the first CBOR named identifiers implementation. And also on MVP 3, we're making good progress. So key findings. First of all, LeapYang. So we are using LeapYang for the validation. And we understood that today LeapYang has some gaps. So in the Yang library, we have the mapping between data store schema, module sets, and modules. And currently, LeapYang, when taking the validation from, taking the Yang library as input for the validation, it doesn't take this into account. So this is something which needs to be extended so that the proper integration with the validation in LeapYang can take place. Now, the second thing is the Yang library on the vendor implementation. So we have 4 implementations: Cisco iOS 6R, Huawei VRP for the broadband access for the OLT side, and also for the IP core side, and also 6Wind VSR for SD-WAN. These are the comparison on the Yang library in terms of schema, a data store schema, node set, and module set mapping. And as you can see on the right-hand side, yellow marked, you see the data store for operational metrics and which schema is being mapped against. So those implementations are fine, while the other 2 implementations do not have for the operational data store a mapping. What does that mean? So when you get a subscription started message from Yang Push, basically the subscription started message tells you as a Yang Push receiver which data store has been subscribed. This is normally because we are subscribing with the operational data store, because we want operational metrics. We get the feedback that's operational metrics, and then afterwards when we are querying the router through netconf, getting the Yang library context and also then the relevant Yang modules for the Yang schema tree for the subscription, the mapping towards the operational data store needs to be part of the Yang library. So these are 2 gaps we identified and needs to be completed before shipped. Then another part is in the Yang push notification in the so-called netconf envelope. We're using Yang structures, and today Yang structures is not supported in LeapYang and in Yang lint. We're currently working with Chestnut together to make this complete. So this is a work in progress, and we expect that in the coming weeks, for sure for the next IETF hackathon, this is being covered. Here, just an example to give you a bit more insight into end-to-end change. So now we are moving up the change towards Apache Kafka. So once we have collected all the Yang schema for a Yang push subscription, we are able to register these Yang models into the Yang Yang schema registry for the message broker. This is the REST call, which is performed towards the Yang schema registry. While discussing with the other participant in the hackathon, we understood there is also a need that not only the Yang schema is being registered to the schema registry, but also that we add some additional metadata. And here it's about which features are enabled on the respective device, respective Yang push publisher node. So because not all part of the Yang schema tree is being enabled. So that basically a Yang data consumer on the other side understands when it receives the Yang models or retrieves the Yang models and compiles the Yang schema tree, he can take also the features into account. This is the REST calls how to retrieve a Yang schema. Then on the consumer side, the other one was how to push. Then on Apache Kafka as an example in implementation for the message broker is pluggable. So this is an example for the Yang serializers. So in order to understand basically what is being serialized, there is metadata in Apache Kafka, and you can see very simple, basically the metadata header only describes the schema ID, so which schema is associated, and what is the content type. And then following that is the payload, which is the JSON encoded Yang message. Next step, we need to bring the Yang extension structure support into Yang linked, having the Yang feature support in the Yang schema registry, netgoes, which is the data collection, the Yang push receiver, and also the message broker Yang producer. It's the netconf get support to obtain the Yang library itself, the validation part, which we just described before, needs to be part of the data collection, and then also the schema registering with the REST calls we were describing. And also we are in contact with the author of PMACCT, with Paolo Lucente. He intends for the next IETF hackathon to implement also the network telemetry message. This is the impressive list of people who contributed to this project. Many thanks. I think we have achieved a lot. Any questions or remarks on?
If no question, I've got one.
Sure.
So we had NMOP as a first meeting on Monday. Then in the telemetry architecture draft, there is an informative reference to ANI data. The ANI data was presented in NMOP, where there was like mild understanding and mild support. I don't see any data in this hackathon. Or do you have any testing? Do you plan to include it? Where are you? Can you give an update? Maybe I missed it.
Exactly. So let me go back.
In the list of drafts, I don't think I saw it.
That's correct. So what we started to work on is in, I don't have it, very valid point. So I haven't described it here. So we already have some sample code for libyang, how to enable the any data validation. So there's just a few lines of code, and we started to test with that. And there is already a pull request on libyang on this code. So by the next IETF hackathon, it will be part of the hackathon report.
And the question behind the question from the chair is, what do we do with the architecture document if it's not adopted and worked on in NMOP? This is the question.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, so if Ahmed Al-Hassani, as a contributor and as a co-author of the AnyData document, we have validated AnyData in another context before the hackathon, but for the envelope message, we were not able to do it fully because of a bug in the libyang, which we have reported and partially fixed after the hackathon, and hopefully by Friday it's going to be a full fix, and maybe we can show it in the demo.
Thank you.
As of the dependency on the work here, having the ANI data is a very nice assurance for people who are using Yang push that the routers are sending them valid messages, but it doesn't block any of the work here at the moment.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks a lot.
Vincenzo. Now we're going to speak about the open source net anomaly lifecycle and semantic.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks. So I'm going to present about Antagonist, which is an open source project that we use to validate the two of the three drafts of the network anomaly detection. One is the lifecycle and the semantic. Next, please. So just as a quick recap, Antagonist is a system that can be used as a incident postmortem analysis system. And it is a single place where you can do a few things about this. You can persist anomaly labels. You can understand how the anomaly detection system is performing in production. You can validate the labels which have been generated by the anomaly detection system via a user interface. And you can also ideally use this for refinement of the detection mechanisms. Yeah, next slide, please. What has been done for this iteration? So first of all, I'm kind of working on moving from a POC to a slightly more production-ready version of the software. This means I had to refactor the whole project, implementing it using Fast API and SQL Alchemy in this specific case. Started implementing a new version of the UI so that ideally this will actually help network engineers to insert information way easier on the system and collect labels and review and validate labels from the detection system. And there has been a little bit of work done on the validation of the overall project with Swisscom data. In particular, we took the data from one of the incidents from Swisscom, and we mimic this data with fields and metrics into the Antagonist lifecycle, and actually realized that it supports the data as it comes from Cosmos Bright Light. The new version of the code is not released. It's not fully released yet. It's on a private repository, but it will be released soon, fully open source. Some testing is still ongoing. So there were, you've seen the blocks, the detection, the validation, the refinement. There are multiple interfaces there between the different blocks. The key aspect here is there are different actors which interact with what we call the label store, which is this Antagonist thing. And there are multiple interfaces, multiple models we defined in the draft. So we're validating all those interfaces one by one. The first one is the detection, the interface between the detection and the label store. This has been validated already with the POC using multiple detection algorithms. And we actually realized that what we have there is substantially sufficient for capturing the anomalies coming from detection systems. So I would say the validation of this part of the API was done already in the previous iterations of the project. The one that we are keeping validating here is the one between the so-called GUI, which is the validation block, and the label store. What we're trying to see is if we can use the same data model for all the interfaces. And in this case, what happens is that, yeah, the data model seems to be very complete. The problem is that for scalability reasons, we have to split it in two. Let's say you might want to query what are the relevant states that are happening in the last week or so. And then you might want, after going into let's see all the anomalies for a specific selected relevant state. So we have to split the model into two different blocks, but substantially the data model still works pretty well. Next, please. There's one small change that might actually need to be done on the model. We didn't do it yet because there is a little bit of validation work to be completed there. One aspect is related to the fact that we have revision and state for the anomalies. We might want to have revision and state for the relevant state as well, for consistency. And the other one is that we might actually need to make the relationship between the semantics and the operational data a little bit more explicit in case we want to use and compare multiple algorithms, multiple machine learning algorithms on the same data set. I have a video here to show a little bit how the new GUI looks like. It goes a little bit fast. Because we are a little time constrained, but I would be happy if anyone is interested in getting a longer version of the demo offline. So what you see here is an initial screen when you can look at all the relevant states which happened in the last week, and you can select based on the concern score. Let's say you select one relevant state, and you see in a nice way all the fields that you've seen in the data model that I was projecting in the previous slide. The user can change the relevant state and go and look at all the anomalies for that specific VPN in that specific time frame. Or if it's not happy enough, then you can decide to add your own new anomaly, pick your metric, select on the time series what was going wrong. This is quite fishy. Okay, so you select, you annotate, start adding some description, like in this case, BMP count spike. You can set all the parameters of the model, set the dimensions for the specific selected metric, concern score, confidence score. And once all this, and at the end, you will see there's the reason, action, and trigger from the semantic model. And once all this information will be filled in, this will be persisted into the label store. So, okay, this is yeah. So, I think we can go back to the slides. Next slide, yes, please. So the refinement part is what really is still open from my perspective. So if you think about the refinement part, what happens is that the refinement block has an interface with the label store, and then it has an arrow which goes into the detection part. This is quite interesting because the second arrow doesn't go through the label store in this case, and the main reason is because what the refinement does is it retrains or it fixes the machine learning models that you have that you want to put in production substantially. So the interface between label store and refinement needs to be standardized because we want to make sure that, again, the relevant states are exposed to the refinement in a way which is consistent. But the interface between the refinement and the detection, this is something that I think we're starting to realize that it doesn't make much sense to standardize I would say from my perspective for a couple of reasons. The first one is that, like, if you think about that interface, there are two aspects you have to take into account. There's a generic way to look at machine learning models or models that do detection in general, and there's a specific way to do that. So the specific way cannot be standardized by definition. You want to have specific fields for the machine learning model. And for what concerns the general part, whatever we have in the MLOps, in the industry of the MLOps, it's already well defined and provides already standard de facto, which are very much used in the industry and are very consistent already. So I would say from my point of view, there wouldn't be any need to standardize anything there. But it's important that we understand what's going on in that arrow, because we need to make sure that the refinement block has all the information that are necessary to work on the second arrow there. So for now, we are trying to see, again, we are hoping that the same data model will still be relevant for this interface as well. I have another video for this one. Thanks. So in this second video, what we're going to see is, okay, you've been labeling the data, you've been validating, whatever. What are you going to do with this? Let's say you realize that these anomalies and these relevant state is actually affecting the customer at the end. So what you do is you create a new incident, put some title, put some description, set the priority. Like in this case, it's an MPLS backbone due to a software bug. It's critical. There's some field description which is going to be introduced there. And this in the backend part is going to trigger the collection of all the relevant telemetry around the specific selected window and specific relevant state that was selected. In this case, also you will be able to see something like a description of the incident and a set of events which were happening connected to the incident itself. But the most important part is you can create a data set out of it. What are you going to do with this data set? You can use this for multiple interesting reasons. First of all, you can share it with other teams in the company, but you can also say, I want to see what my models are doing in production, and I can actually realize that one of them is performing well, the other one is so-so. There's a bit of a recall. It's not performing as expected. Do I have any other model? So I can go and look at the list of available models in my model registry. I can pick one. I can take the data set that I just created, and I say, can you evaluate this model on that data set? And this is going to give me some results. They look good. Happy? Yes, let's deploy to production. And this is going to push the model straight into production. This is the end of the video. Now, I must say that this second part of the video is mocked, meaning that the GUI is finished, but the backend is still under work. And if you want to go back to slides. And then in the next slides, we're going to see what is happening from a backend point of view. What is the target? Yes, so this is the idea. We need to integrate with the label store a bunch of components which are going to help us with the management of the telemetry data at scale, and the management of the models at scale, and the management of the experiments and model performance in a way that is as automated as possible. So the idea here is to introduce so-called feature store. It's a well-known component in the MLOps ecosystem. The feature store has the major responsibility of making sure that the data is standardized, which means we get the same format both during training and during inference for the anomaly detection. Also, we have feature versioning, which is a key feature here, because let's assume you have multiple models and you want to compare them. Not all the models will need the same type of data cleaning procedures. Some of them will want you to normalize the data before. Some of them will not want to normalize data before. And there's plenty of various data cleaning procedures that you might need to do. And having a versioning for that is going to be key, because then you can say, my model A needs data feature version 1, my model B needs feature version 2, etc. And then point-in-time correctness, which I think we should get it for free. I mean, in the sense that it's obvious that that needs to happen. The data from the feature store, as I said, goes both into the retraining and deployed model, same format. The two blocks, they talk to each other via the model registry. The model registry is a registry where you register your models, and you can use that for deployment, and you can use that every time you retrain a new version of your model, you persist it there. Two very important features of model registries are the model versioning, so you can keep track of how many times you've been retraining the same model, multiple versions, which data sets you use, and so forth. And the other one is the model lineage, so you want to make sure that you keep track of how the model changed over time. And the last block is the experiment tracking, which of course is important to keep track of the recall, precision, accuracy, and so forth, all those metrics for evaluation of machine learning models. And I want to see if I can use the same for production monitoring of the models as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in terms of next steps, of course, we need to finish the backend implementation just to make sure that what you've seen in the second video is not mocked, is actually working. And there's a little bit of testing and a little bit of finalization of some GUI aspects to be done there. I would say these ideally will get us into a point where we can actually say, yes, the data model works also for the refinement part. So for this part here, we will hopefully keep cooperating with Swisscom and try to see if we can use the data to go for the full cycle end to end. And again, just the next slide. Time is over. Just to thank the team, everybody who's been providing feedback so far. If you have feedback, suggestions, feature requests, please get in touch, face-to-face, online, whichever way. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We've got time, 1 minute for question, feedback. All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Vincenzo.
Thanks, guys.
And now the CMAP hackathon results.
Thanks. So, hello everyone, Pierre-François from the French National Institute for Applied Science, and I will report to you thanks. On the CMAP hackathon that happened this weekend. So, little bit of history. We started 4 hackathons ago. I don't remember what we did the first one. In 121, we basically made a CMAP model for an ISIS based on a lab. And we found out some gaps that we started to fill. And then we started developing at that time and did a bit of coding. The next hackathon, we realized that, well, coding was done when we arrived, and we realized that we needed to get information from the CMAP to external elements, and so we decided to start formalizing this, and we started to model SRv6 in the core, so an ISIS network enabled with SRv6. And we made decision on how we would want to describe external relationship from a CMAP to external elements. And for this hackathon, we added VPN services steered into SRv6 routes, and we did the modeling of them. And now we have an implementation of the VVEX draft on the modeling of external relationships. So initially, we were using the Swisscom and Telefonica labs to do the ISIS work for the SRv6 modeling, for the ISIS modeling, sorry. And now we added 2 labs. So thanks to Swisscom for that, to giving us access to their SRv6 migration lab. And we also have some virtual labs like this one, which is a mix of SROS and SR Linux boxes running on VVEX laptop. So that was maybe the reason of the heat around our table during the hackathon. And that's the lab that we use to be able to change the topology quickly to do some validation. So what we achieved during this hackathon is, well, we arrived with the code, modeling segment lists, candidate paths, and policies for SRv6 enabled ISIS networks. And we added the layer 3 VPN service over it to the CMAP, based on models that you've never seen because they are slideware in the project. So that will be next steps to publish this. And so what we did was to use inside that project, the Young model from Vivek providing external relationships to elements that was implemented in a library when we arrived, and we used it during this hackathon to get basic information on the network, like the operational status of interfaces, the ISIS timer configurations, etc. So it was purely for validation purposes. So this is a result of a get, a Neo4j get on the result of the execution of the code, fetching information from the network and providing a digital map of PE to PE SRv6 policies. Oh, sorry. Plus an NDT4 function in order to be able to have packets flying instead of from a PE to a PE. Now we have from a CE to a CE, steered into policies. And we have an L3 VPN over a SRv6 layer. And so we have a modeling of the link between a source VRF and a destination prefix, giving us the link towards the destination VRF where the packet will go and the policy that is going to be used to get to that outgoing PE in the network. We use, as I said earlier, we use Vivek's draft to get information from the network in a generic fashion. So where we use a Young model to describe how we are going to extract what type of information from the network. And that's what we use during the hackathon for the state of the interfaces and some timer configs, as I said earlier. And the code is basically using the draft, the Young models that we instantiated in order to go get that information from the network. So what's next? Well, as I said earlier, the SRv6 models that we have are currently, well, they're not internal. We can share them with you if you need, but if we need, but currently they're not published. So we want to get feedback on them, see if we are not overlapping with other efforts that are related, notably with TEAS, etc. And then we are going to adapt from that feedback to the, we are going to adapt the code from your feedback. In the future, so the next step is going to be able to craft exotic policy in SRv6 from PE to PE, and then steer the packets coming from a CE into those exotic policies. So currently we have modeling of the SRv6 policies internally in the ISP. We have the modeling of packets coming from a CE to a CE, and the next step is to mix the two of them. And I would, in 2 weeks from now, what we will have is the entire CMAP be constructed based on the use of Vivek's draft to fetch external elements. So currently we only have the ISIS part of it. And well, we basically want to have everything being bootstrapped using that draft. And as a continuous effort, we follow obviously Olga's work on CMAP, so where she's filling gaps in 83.4.5, and we're basically following it to see if it impacts the current state of our models. And that's it.
Any questions?
Sorry, I was fast. I may have stunned everyone. Too much coffee.
Want to do it again?
You want me to backwards?
So, Mike, you're next on the report of the design team for the knowledge graph. And actually, I'm not too surprised there are no questions or interaction because it's reporting on the hackathon, but feel free anyway, right?
Hi, everybody. So we had a side meeting. What's the background on this? Well, we're looking at creating a knowledge graph and using The idea is around semantic web, but not specifically semantic web technologies, all of the semantic web technologies to solve what? What's the problem? Well, the problem that we're trying to solve is that there is data that is isolated within the network. Right now, it is either inside of applications, in the network itself, in BSS, OSS, all of these places, and trying to unlock the connections between this data is, we believe, the key for a lot of this work that people are doing on AI agents and autonomous networks. We have, right now, there was 3 drafts that were kind of pushing forward, a lot of overlapping stuff, a lot of independent stuff that within that. There was a feeling that, okay, some people were kind of duplicating, so we needed to come together. So a design team was created to unify this, and design team members are all there. It's open for other people if you want to join. And we had a meeting to try and figure out, well, what are we going to do? As part of each of those drafts that you've seen there was various works. So we've already got maybe a basis for innovation, and that we can kind of experiment with and use to create or illustrate how this work can be used. You can see them all there. Noria is an open source ontology provided by Orange. It's actually been used in production, or at least a version of it. We've got hackathons by Nacho here. Our team provided a way to create RDF automatically from Yang, both schema and instance data. There's other stuff we can share as well. So what can we do? So this was the meeting. We had a pretty good meeting. It was spirited at times, which is good. It means people care. This is the outcomes that we want to share. So obviously we want to move to the point where we can start sharing knowledge and actually defining knowledge and new knowledge and ways and relationships, and do that within the IETF. So we want to build a community. This is why I'm inviting more people to join if you want. We kind of define what the IETF can do. Obviously, it can create an ontology. We don't particularly want to recreate a new model for the network. There is more than enough people doing that already. What we want to really do is be able to put it into a format that can be searchable, indexable. You can connect to it, add new connections really quickly, and use it to connect all the information in all of these silos, regardless of the model. I mean, we mentioned Yang already, but really it's any model, and even stuff that's unmodeled, unstructured data, CLI, syslogs. So we talked about design considerations. There was a question about scale. Obviously, there are different ways we can do this. Semantic web, that a lot of the stuff is based on, is designed to scale, to web scale. So there are techniques but there was a question about keeping an eye on that. Suggestion we maybe start with a simple use case and extend it, bring more complex use cases in, try and get as much coverage from the least amount of effort. And there's a question of whether the IETF is the right place for this. The RFC process is too formal, creating an RFC is too slow. We want to maybe move to a kind of more faster, iterative versions, still specifications. There was an open issue about whether or not we're too experimental. Is this the right place, the IETF versus IRTF? Finally, though, this is what was decided. We're going to create an initial POC fusing early CMAP model, and this is kind of more or less what I was saying, is we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So why not take something that's already happening? We examined the Noria O ontology. You can see the part that's highlighted in red. That is maybe a good candidate for being removed, and for the CMAP model being dropped in. What does that give us? It shows how we can quickly link work that's happening here in the IETF with external models, whether it's coming from Norio here, that's modeling BSS, OSS, that type of system. While we do that work, we want to look at future work and maybe come up with the definition for that use case. So this gives us a little bit of space so that we actually have something we can show, but we can start on the real thing we want to do, which is to come up with new use cases, come up with new relationships, ontologies. The high level use cases we want to tackle first, anomaly and incident management, data tracking across APIs. I know the Onions meeting was quite spirited as well. So, you know, taking the output from those sort of things and putting it in a way that can connect with all of the other work that's going on, and, you know, change coordination and actually change validation. So there's quite a big number of use cases that we can look at. If you have any ideas, you want to get involved, please reach out. Thanks.
So, thanks. So first, I have a comment as chair. Similar thing that I mentioned on Monday and during the side meeting is, if you want to join the design team, please get in touch with me. You've seen the list of people. There's quite a few people. I am trying to find the middle ground between keeping this open and having a variety of people there, but also I don't want this to be a zoo where there's 50 people on the design team and getting any kind of consensus. So one person has reached out to me since Monday. That person is a co-author of the design, is a co-author of one of the docs that Michael showed, and that person was added to the design team. That's number one. Number two, to answer a question Maesh asked me Monday and may ask me again, is, you know, how is the design team going to be reporting back? That's TBD, but there is reporting back, whether that might be another interim, it might be emails, it might be, you know, that kind of stuff. We can discuss offline what if there's any specific type of reporting you would like, but the intent is not to have the design team go away for 6 months and then hear back from them in 6 months. Okay. And then so that was my chair spiel. Now, a not really technical question, but I knew during the side meeting there was discussion about RDF. You know, is there anything you can mention? And if you don't want to now, it's fine. About, you know, I think there was mention about issues with tooling with RDF, whether RDF is the right schema language, for lack of a better term, why Yang may not always be the right tool, that kind of stuff. Can you, we have time, so
yes,
we can talk about that a little bit.
There are various ways to implement the knowledge graph, and all of them are good. I'm not offering an opinion on any of them, but the only way right now to define a schema for a knowledge graph is using RDFS. So that's the reason for that approach. But most RDF database, most LPG databases will allow you to import RDF data if you want. If you want to go down the LPG approach. So Neo4j has Neo Semantics. There's plugins for ArangoDB. There's a whole bunch of them out there. So the two worlds are not incompatible. So we're not offering an opinion on how to implement it. It's really just to be able to define the semantic for the relationships.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions? Open mic. Okay. Thanks. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes, I think. Yeah, we have about 10 minutes, so it's open mic time. I'm going to start by something to mention to Ahmed and Thomas regarding any data stuff on Monday. If you haven't already, try to reach out to the chairs to talk about that. Maybe in person, explaining the problem might be easier, or maybe even send an email to NetMod. As Benoit was alluding, if that document is not adopted there, if they don't think it's a problem, or that, you know, it's a problem for the document here, which you have, because I think you have a normative reference, right? So, thank you.
Pierre?
Well, I'm not sure it's the time for that question, but I forgot to ask a question during my talk. It's so we are modeling VPN services over SRv6. When we have a Young model for it as a VPN service, do I do it here or do I go to Onions when Onions is going to exist? And when I have the ISIS with SRv6 enabled, I do it here, I guess, because it's topological. And for the VPN one, I go to Onions. That's the plan.
Thank you, Mahesh.
Sorry, I was kind of distracted. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. So we are going to have CMAP under the form of Young models for VPN services transported over SRv6. And we are going to have Young models for SRv6 enabled ISIS networks. So it's two different drafts. One is topological, one is a service over which we catch with a combination of the two an actual topological path. And my question is the SRv6 VPN1 going to Onions to be and the SRv6 enabled IGP1 here?
Okay, thanks for that context. I mean, first of all, Onions is still to be formed, so
that's why the question. Yeah.
We can worry about that when it is formed, and I don't particularly see a reason why both the pieces of work, at least for now, cannot be done here.
Okay.
Hi, this is Oscar Gonzalez, Telefónica. So as author of one of the L3NM that was capturing the VPN, well, that was one missing piece, okay, because and also we have started to collect the issues of what was the missing pieces in the service model, and precisely this one. So should there be a service 6 with supported in the L3 VPN? I think a piece of the existing L3NM would be nice thing. Where you make it is another different story, but that we already have a Young model that covers L3 VPN, so covering that there seems reasonable. Okay, so also as it's also seems reasonable that the different services that are also L2NM, etc., that here the relationship with the topology, also we use those models as a base to do the linkage as they are already there. And should we define a new working group and advance and so on, maybe it's also there. The open question for me would be the relationship with the topology, because here we are in CMAP, we were linking topology and services. Where would that lie? That's a very good and open question. But for the specific one of the SRv6, I think that we should continue over L3NM and make the linkage there. It's there. But that's my opinion.
So, Oscar, don't go too far, please. So it seems that there are two Young models. There is one which is an augmentation of CMAP with a layer which is specific to SRv6. And what we foresaw in the working group is that once we have the base Young model for CMAP, we also want to have guidelines on how to augment this for new layers. So this one would fit here. What I'm not sure is whenever you speak, Pierre, about VPN over SRv6, what is it that you want to augment and how big is this compared to what Oscar has been doing? Do you have an idea here?
I'm pretty sure Olga is going to answer to that.
Go ahead. So I'll maybe just mention SRv6. I won't talk about
So please
VPN.
talk to the mic.
I'll maybe just start from SRv6, maybe not VPN, just one layer. So let's say what we did in the hackathon, we model SRv6 from the topological perspective, like, using RFC 8345 and then saying at different, what is segment list, what is seed, what is locator in the context of the topology, and we build it through one layer with multiple sublayers, etc. So, but what's happening is we have SRV6 ops that has also SRV6 topology that is doing augmentation of RFC 345, but it doesn't look, let's say, it's segments or segment lists, or differently models it for different purpose, maybe not for purpose of the addressing requirements that we have in CMAP. So is there a requirement that we correlate? Is there a requirement that it goes through onions just for, let's say, SRV6, but for VPN over SRV6, it's even more complicated, more RFCs and things like that. So
this is new to me that there was in SR that there is in SRV6 ops a topology related draft, and we've got the chair there. So there is something to coordinate.
but for VPN,
I expected to say something here. You could come see me online, offline if you want to talk about that. But yes, we do have a few drafts for that.
Can you speak to the mic?
Yes, we have a few drafts for that.
This is Dan and your SRV6 ops.
Dan, SRV6 up chair. Cisco.
And how do you see this happening? That there is an SRV6 ops topology rated draft. How do you see it fit with CMAP?
Well, it's a good question. I think we need to collaborate more on this, because we need to understand the requirement of CMAP, and then we need to know, did we write the topology right for CMAP work?
Because Olga mentioned something which is key. You're augmenting already 8345 while we're trying to correct it as well in this working group. So I'm slightly confused here.
Yeah, we never really took the time to sit down and readjust between the two working group, and that could be a relationship that we do between the two working group.
You're ops guy now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Just would like to propose to extend CMAP to support RFC 9252 BGP over services over SRV6. So BGP-based topology.
Just to add a point, the existing models in the SRV6 ops are not conflicting. There is no choice to make between those models. They serve different purposes, right? A bit of a, so I'm not saying we should do mapping in onions, right? But we kind of yesterday said we would not, right? And there will be a point where someone will have to tackle this, right? Or else we are going to have conflicts for no reason, just because we do not want to work on the relation between the two. So if there could be something happening in the area so that we do not work like in completely different directions and the operators get confused about what's this, let's not let this get messy. That's my point there. Okay.
So it seems that we've got all the right people in this room. So we've got the SRV6 ops chair, we've got Olga, we've got you. So can you please find a solution and let us know, or you want us to, I have to go over a chair, I'm going to the chair of SRV6, we're going via the ADs and then all this. I mean,
that's an AD job maybe, no? I don't know. I would say so, no? Well, I can help, we can help, of course, but it could be, no? Shouldn't it be coordinated by ADs?
So more than happy to help to try to figure out, but I would think that from a knowledge perspective, as far as CMAP is concerned, most the knowledge base is here in this working group. And I know it'll have its applications in CIDR ops, sorry, not CIDR, SRV6 ops, or it might be in other working groups. But if this is where most of the knowledge is, I don't see any reason why we have to move. But I'm open to having a discussion offline to figure it out.
Thank you.
The only thing, my biggest issue is that if we start from 8345, which Olga is doing, if we update this for whatever reason, and SRV6 op is also updating with the augmenting, sorry, the 8345, and then we get out of sync. This is a bit sad.
Sure. So those are the subtleties I'm willing to hear from the chairs to figure out where best to map it.
I was in the queue, but I guess it's a hint to come again. There hasn't been any, let's meet and talk about this other than what's happening right now at the mic. So I think step one is to meet and read the draft, compare it, discuss with the authors, and then move on. Before we go with chairs and AD and everything, I think that's supposed to be happening first.
I just wanted to make one comment, thanks Dan. Why we didn't start talking about that alignment is because our initial focus is on gaps for the RFC 345, and we are using the hackathon to identify all of those gaps. How those different technologies would be modeled, you know, we may propose a SRV6 draft, or we may find a generic way how SRV6 could be modeled using the RFC 8345. So there are two ways, augmentation or generic way. So for example, we can do same as Oscar did for ISIS and OSPF, and do the similar for every technology that was missing. Or there were some proposals for somebody, I don't know, Oscar, was the status there to do some generic solution with some metadata where you could be able, through that metadata, to support any layer without additional drafts. So it's still not fully, I don't know, Oscar was having those discussions, so I don't know what's the latest status for that. But I think that is really the part of the next phase for CMAP, identify the gaps, and then with those modeling gaps, and then say how to apply it and how to use it for different technologies. Thanks.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you, everybody. I think we're over time already. Thank you for attending, and we'll see you in Montreal.
Thank you.
Remove the element of surprise.